Welcome to our channel Crime Loom, the place where true crime stories come alive. On a cold December evening in 2004, the city of Belfast seemed peaceful. Christmas lights filled the streets, families rushed to finish their shopping, and everything felt calm. But while the city slept, a secret plan was already in motion, one that would soon shock the entire country. A group of unknown criminals was preparing for a robbery so bold, so perfectly planned, that it would become one of the biggest unsolved crimes in UK history. This was not a normal heist. There would be no masked gunmen bursting into a bank, no alarms ringing through the night. Instead, the criminals would slip into the lives of two ordinary bank employees and use fear, control, and careful planning to steal more than £26 million. This is the story of the Northern Bank Robbery. The story of the Northern Bank Robbery continues with even more surprising details, because what happened after the crime was almost as dramatic as the robbery itself. While most robberies end with flashing lights, alarms, and a quick response from police, this one ended in complete silence. The criminals had vanished without leaving a clear trail, and the public wanted answers. When the police officially announced the robbery to the media, shock spread across the country. People found it almost unbelievable that a group could take such a huge amount of money, more than £26 million, from a major bank without breaking in, without setting off alarms, and without being caught on camera in any clear way. Reporters filled the streets outside the bank, filming the entrance and interviewing anyone who could provide even the smallest detail. The entire city of Belfast was talking about it. The news spread not only across the UK but around the world. Investigators quickly realized that the criminals had planned this operation for months, maybe even years. They would have needed to study the employees' routines, understand how the bank moved cash, and figure out the perfect time to strike. They also needed detailed knowledge about bank security, delivery schedules, and how the vault system worked. This wasn't a random crime. It was a professional, well-coordinated operation. Inside the bank, detectives interviewed staff members for hours. Many employees were frightened and confused. They had no idea anything unusual had happened when they left work on December 20th. Some felt guilty, even though they had done nothing wrong. Others were worried because the robbery showed how vulnerable they could be. If criminals could walk into their homes disguised as police, what protection did they really have? The bank itself had a major problem after the robbery. Because so many of the stolen banknotes were newly printed, the serial numbers were easy to trace. Northern Bank decided to take a drastic step. They announced they would withdraw all of their banknotes from circulation and replace them with newly designed ones. This was a huge task and extremely expensive, but it meant that the stolen Northern banknotes would eventually become useless. Criminals would no longer be able to spend them easily. This move made international headlines. It was rare for a major bank to redesign and replace its entire set of banknotes because of a robbery. The decision showed how serious the situation was. For the robbers, it meant they had to act quickly to launder or exchange the money. They needed clean cash, investments, or foreign currency before the notes became worthless. Meanwhile, detectives followed every lead they could find. They studied CCTV footage from streets near the bank, but the images were grainy, and the robbers wore hats, masks, or gloves. They searched for the vans used in the robbery, but the vehicles had either been abandoned or had fake plates. Professional thieves often dismantle getaway vehicles, burn them, or leave them in remote places. Police found nothing that solved the mystery. In the homes of the employees, investigators also searched for clues. Kevin McMullen and Chris Ward were treated as victims at first because their families had been threatened and held hostage. But as with any major case, detectives had to consider every possibility. They asked themselves whether the robbers had inside help beyond the two employees who were forced to participate. Could there have been another worker secretly involved? Was anyone acting strangely before the robbery? These questions created tension inside the bank and put pressure on the employees. Days turned into weeks, and the investigation became more complicated. Political leaders entered the discussion. Newspapers published bold headlines suggesting that the IRA might be behind the robbery. This accusation created huge arguments because it came during a delicate point in the peace process in Northern Ireland. The Good Friday Agreement had created hope for peace, and many groups were trying to build trust. But now, one of the biggest robberies in UK history was being linked to a group that had agreed to end violence. People wondered if this would damage the progress that had been made. The IRA strongly denied involvement. The suspicion never fully disappeared. Some experts believe the robbery required the kind of organization and discipline that a paramilitary group could provide. Others believed it was a separate criminal gang that simply used similar methods. The truth was never proven, and this uncertainty became part of the case's lasting mystery. Months after the robbery, a small breakthrough finally came. Police found a significant amount of banknotes connected to the robbery during a raid in Belfast. This discovery suggested that the money was still somewhere in Northern Ireland, being slowly prepared for laundering. In another case, a man was caught in Ballymena with bags of cash that traced back to the stolen money. But even though detectives were hopeful, these pieces of evidence did not lead them to the main group responsible. It was like trying to solve a puzzle with most of the pieces missing. One man was eventually charged, but the case fell apart in court. The evidence against him was weak, and the judge ruled that there wasn't enough to convict him. After that, the police investigation lost momentum. Without strong leads, the case grew cold. For the public, the Northern Bank robbery became a story told almost like a legend. People talked about how the criminals dressed as police, how they controlled the employees, how they loaded millions into vans, and how they escaped without firing a single shot. It became a symbol of how carefully planned crimes can succeed even in modern times with cameras, alarms, and advanced technology. As the years passed, the robbery inspired documentaries, books, and interviews with former detectives. Crime experts studied the case to understand how such a large operation could be carried out without leaving a clear trace. Many believe that the smartest part of the plan was the hostage strategy. By controlling the employees through fear, the gang didn't need to break into the bank at all. They simply walked in through the front door, using the employees' access. Others believed that the criminals might have been watching the bank for months, learning everything they needed to know. They may have studied security shifts, delivery times, and employee routines. They may have even placed someone inside the bank months before the robbery to gather information. But because the case was never solved, these ideas remain theories. Today, more than 2 decades later, no one knows exactly what happened to the majority of the £26.5 million. Some people believe the money was moved out of the country shortly after the robbery. Others think it was broken into small amounts and spent slowly over many years. There are theories that some of the cash is still hidden somewhere, waiting to be found. Unless someone comes forward or new evidence appears, the truth may remain a secret forever. The Northern Bank robbery is remembered not just for the money stolen, but for the fear, planning, and mystery surrounding it. It was a crime that changed how banks handled security and how they protected their staff. It showed the world how powerful psychological pressure can be in a crime. And it left behind one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in the UK's history. Even today, people still ask the same question: how did a group of criminals manage to walk away with millions of pounds and avoid getting caught? The answer remains unknown, but the story continues to fascinate anyone who hears it. It's making it one of the most unforgettable and dramatic robberies ever recorded. And so, after all these years, the Northern Bank robbery remains a mystery. The criminals who stole more than £26 million managed to disappear without leaving anything solid behind. No one was ever convicted. Most of the money was never found. And the truth about who planned the whole operation is still unknown. The case continues to fascinate people because it shows how a perfectly planned crime can outsmart even the strongest security systems. Some believe the answers are still out there, waiting to be discovered. But until someone speaks, the Northern Bank robbery will remain one of the most legendary and puzzling heists in UK history. If viewers enjoyed this story, they can stay tuned for more unbelievable real crime cases from around the world. For watching more amazing videos like this, subscribe our channel Crime Loom.